What is up, investors? Welcome back to In the Green with Charlie. Today I have a fantastic guest in Dominick Ziola. Now, I want to apologize because this podcast was actually recorded last Friday and not released until today. So many of the things discussed are now out of date after all the news that happened this weekend. That being said, Dominick made a number of predictions that were spot on. And this podcast can give a little insight into his thought process as an investor.
I'm at the bank making money, making moves. Machines with tools and drills, making grooves. Missions impossible.
Hey, Dominick, how you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm fantastic. So let's jump right into it and get started. Could you just give yourself or introduce yourself to the investor community?
Absolutely. Yeah, my name's Dominick Ziola. I grew up outside of Chicago, small town called Bensonville, most of my life. Always been around the suburbs. Raised by my grandparents since I was about 2 years old. So I was brought up in a home, Democratic home, Cub, always rooting for the Cubs kind of thing. But one of the things that I was always taught was about money. My grandpa always sat down and paid his bills right when it came in. He always taught me the value of a dollar, how to save. I had a savings account at an early age, So a lot of these things financially were instilled in me at a younger age. So as I got a little bit older, I always knew about the stock market, but I never really looked at it or got involved. It was scary for me. But my grandfather was involved with it. Unfortunately, he passed away about 10 years ago or so. But since then, I have a beautiful wife. I have a 8-year-old daughter right now, and we live in LaGrange Park now, which is outside of Chicago as well. But I do have a brother that's about 5 years older. So as far as a little bit about myself, I'm an Uber driver right now, just because I was in accounting for about 10 years and the company, it closed down. So it kind of pointed me down a different road. And that's when I got into an actual business with driving with Uber and started to look at it as a business and started to realize that, holy cow, I'm not getting any younger. I need money for the future. I need to figure I have a daughter now. I need to start thinking not about myself anymore, but about my family and, other people other than myself, So that's what ultimately brought me to Invstr.
So when you first found Invstr, knowing that you really need to take your finances seriously, what was your first experience like on the app?
Nothing but positivity. To be frank with you, I started off very well, kind of on a fluke, because my first trade I ever made, I made my first trade in real life about May, in May on Robinhood when we got our stimulus checks. It was right around there, but I took half of it and I bought 100 shares of NIO at around $5.80 a share. I still have them to today, which is great because it's in the $40 range. That was the first time I bought, of my first stocks I ever bought. Then I started looking around because I wanted to learn more, but I didn't want to lose money. I wanted to learn, but I wanted to try different strategies. So that brought me to searching the App Store, and I found Invstr. I downloaded it, and that's when I purchased NIO on Invstr as well. And I remember that next following month, it kept going up. It kept shooting up. And I started to realize that, this is interesting. But then all of a sudden I started to lose money because I was making other investments, but I started to realize they were more emotional investments, or what do they say? Fear of missing out. So you might try to chase a stock, things like that. And I started doing those types of things. But it was a positive experience, but I got to the point where I got so frustrated because I didn't really understand. I deleted the app because I was so angry, you know. I was like, I can't do this. I gave up on myself. And then I kind of gathered myself and I'm like, you know what? I'm all right. I re-downloaded the app. I spoke a little bit with Nora Lee, like in direct messaging, and she just kind of gave really encouraging words. And I mean, I've been on the app, I think 6 months now. But you know, I'm not scared. Yeah, I'm not scared to say just how it was. I was fed up but after coming up, basically I came up with a strategy to keep things simple. I don't invest in a company anymore unless I can wrap my head around what the company does. So I need to know, like, for example, like NIO, I understand what they do. They make electric vehicles. Understanding the market where they're selling. I don't want a company that's going to be changing, like Kodak, for example, right? They used to do film. Now what they're talking about working in medicine, you know, I mean, that something like that, I don't want to get into a company that's going to be changing their whole business plan. I want a company that's solid, sound, and is going to be sticking with the thing that I understand that they're doing. And the number 3 thing is I want to make sure I get in at a good price. Those are the 3 main things that I look at when I'm looking at a stock. And some of the things with understanding the stock is looking at the balance sheet, listening to some of these calls that they have with, you know, investment calls you can get on, and they talk about the future, and the balance sheet is huge. Understanding how much money they have coming in, new products, capital that's coming in, how much debt they have. You know, just as a bank would look at me, debt to income ratio kind of thing. That's kind of how I started looking at companies. And as I did that with Invstr, using, you know, the charts, and started to kind of look at the community. And I think one of the first, is it Nick Albert? He was one of the first, I think one of the first people I followed on the app. And he always seemed to have positive numbers. So I started looking at the companies he was investing in and digging into the balance sheets a little bit. And that's when I started to kind of got that aha moment that it's not always going to be easy, but I can make the odds better as far as investing in a company, as far as making better choices. And ever since then, I've been doing I have a personal profile and I have my investor account, but I've been getting better, and I've more disciplined I'm a different person as I was 6 months ago. Don't let my emotions get involved. Even things right now things could be going down 10-15% right now. I mean, it's Friday, right? Afternoon, people might be selling off, but I'm not scared. I'm not worried, because I know that the companies I've looked at, based on the election and everything, that the companies that I have, that I feel that I've done enough research that I can trust them, that even if they go down today, that no matter what, by the end of the month, that they will be up as far as where they're at right now. So.
Gotcha. So based on all those things you've learned and those kind of criteria, what are some companies, if you're comfortable sharing, that you're looking at right now that you're excited about?
Yeah, really a huge. I mean, I'll give it the sleeper. I think the best penny stock, and it's on Invstr. I think the best penny stock right now is Sundial Growers, SNDL. I picked them up even personally. My personal profile at 14 cents a share. That company right there is a life changer. I think right now it's about, I put a 4-time multiplier on it, of course, and I'm up, I think close to like 1.4 million
Wow.
for the month, just on that one stock. Hexo, HEXO, is another marijuana stock. The only reason I'm mentioning, also too, there's a third one. Hold on real quick. It is, Aurora Cannabis. That's the third one. And the reason I'm focusing on these cannabis stocks is just because of the fact of Biden seeming like he's going to win the election. The vice president is talking about decriminalizing, or at least, marijuana is looked at as a stage 1 substance in the same categories as like heroin. So if they can drop down, decriminalize that stock or that, marijuana, it's going to open the opportunity for more testing, more as far as the medical side. It's going to open up a lot more opportunity, and I believe the market is going to open up hugely. And then there were 5 states that have legalized it on this last ballot. And the United States is kind of turning that way. That's why I think these stocks are blowing up right now, because not only me, but everybody sees the value in these stocks. And even the banks are allowing people to now, some of them, where you can run a debit card to purchase something, if you need an edible or whatever. So I've looked into these companies, and out of those 3, I think SNDL is the number 1 penny stock of the year, in my opinion. I believe it will go over $1.
What about that one stands out compared to the other 2?
Because they have earnings coming up on the 11th, November 11th. Their last earnings, they had a profit of roughly $27 million, but they had around, they had a little bit of debt. They built a new facility. So they're right now, they're in the process. On the 11th, they're speculative of having earnings around $24 to $26 million. And also they said on their last call that they should be debt free. And right now the value of the company is around 27.5 million on the, if you look at the stock, how much their evaluation is. And I believe what's going to happen where their current price is, coming in at another $26 million. See, last time they had an offering, which kind of diluted that stock so that it didn't shoot up. But this time, that's why you see, it go from 14 cents to 35 cents in the matter of 2 or 3 days. And I think it'll continue to go up because those earnings, the company should be worth roughly $50-60 million once they announce the earnings. And that is equivalent to about 50-60 cents a share for that company, if you kind of roughly, if you put it on paper. So that's why I believe that company is definitely one of the best. I think it is the best penny stock of 2020.
Gotcha. We'll be watching on the 11th when their earnings come out.
Me too. I love listening to the calls too.
Gotcha.
Get in there and you can kind of, firsthand kind of listen to everything. That's the best way to do it.
Gotcha. So on the other side, what are some like sectors or industries that you're more bearish on going forward?
I would say, there's these COVID related stocks that I kind of separate from kind of the regular stocks. Like for example, COVID stocks would maybe be things like which McCormick, maybe, spices, cooking at home, Clorox. There's these COVID stocks that have rose a lot. I believe that those are there's a sector of those that I think are going to start going down. And I think people are going to start investing more into these cruise lines, airlines, banks, financial institutions. I think it's going to start to kind of cross over, just because I think people are going to be more positive towards the future, especially with potentially having a new president, a Democratic president. I think the distribution of wealth and how everything has been going, I think things are going to start to change in the market. And this response, the market going up as high as it has been this whole week, in my opinion, has been a direct result of Joe Biden winning, or, being potentially winning. A lot of people believing in that. That's why I believe the stock market's going up. But I think I'm bearish more on those COVID related stocks, because I just things I read, people are like, I don't want to take a Donald Trump vaccine kind of thing. So these companies like Moderna and that are making these vaccines, I think things are going to change a little bit, and though I think that sector is going to drop down a little. I think that section is going to drop down, and we're going to kind of switch back over to those stocks that, like I said, the cruise lines, the banks, the airlines, things of that nature. So that's just my opinion.
Are you thinking about maybe investing in like cruise lines and airlines soon, or do you still think it's too early, and that's kind of just might be a little early hype?
I think it's still early for me. Like I said, if I can wrap my head around the business, like I said, I go back to those three things, understanding what they do. If I can get a good price and they're not changing their internal, what they do, not the airline going to, whatever, to a taxi cab company, they're not doing nothing crazy to change their business model. Then there could be some, if there was one airline stock, it would probably be Southwest. I think they're the best run company. They burn they burn the least amount of cash right now. They're about 50 to 60% less cash that they burn. I think they burn about 12 to 15 million a day right now. These other airlines are burning upwards of 25 million. And they have a couple billion in the bank, and they have about 8-9 billion in assets in planes. So if I was looking at investing in an airline, I would definitely be looking at Southwest personally. But yeah, I think airlines, because what people are doing, they're booking like Royal Cruise Lines. They're like filled next year. People are already booking into 2021. I think a lot of that is already in the stock, that value. So I wouldn't pull the trigger right now personally, but it's something that I'm going to start looking at some of these other companies that I haven't been looking at recently.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense,
but yeah.
So now moving to talk more about the Invstr app specifically, are you in any leagues on the app?
Yeah, I'm in quite a few.
What's your favorite?
I right now the main the Supreme League, just like the regular league, is fun. I think I'm in a few, but the one I want to get into is I want to finish the training, and I want to get into that. I want to get into that league. But I get a lot. There's a couple guys that we're always close to each other, and we kind of have friendly competition. So definitely the league that I'm gunning for first this month for sure. I'm not holding back, because last few months I've kind of been holding back a little bit and not putting in the time. And this month I'm not holding back. I was fifth a couple months ago, 3 months ago or so. And I'm like, this month I'm gunning for first. And I think I'm either first or second right now. But I always seem to let down as the month gets older. So, like the last week of the month. But I just I this month, I'm really focused because I'm personally have a profile, but with Invstr, I would love to get that money and start investing in the app as well. Cause I was approved for the account to trade in Invstr. So, but yeah, winning that, the Supreme League, the second league.
Yeah, that's
yeah. So that would be my favorite, just because there's a lot of competition and there's money to be made. It's something to take seriously, but still at the same time, it's made to have fun most of all.
For sure. Who are some of the people on the app you both communicate with and learn from while you're playing the game?
I would say like Nora Lee has been wonderful. I mean, we've had a bunch of conversations, and she just seems to, I mean, I don't know her personally. I've heard her on the podcast, but she just seems like such a great role model. And I just, her career, what I know about it through the app and what just small things she shared, I look at someone like that, and I'm just, I'm like, man, I admire somebody who's kind of had a career like that. Nick, is it Nick Albert? I think he's very helpful with the app, very responsive. There's also two, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but Roger Haynes.
Roger Haynes.
Yeah, Haynes. Yeah, Roger Haynes. He's been one of the guys that I kind of been, whenever we go up a little bit, we'll send a message, vroom, vroom, kind of thing, passing you by. So we kind of have a friendly competition going. And then Thomas Quinlan. Yeah, he's one of the guys that I've followed that, especially since the beginning, that has helped me with information and things of that nature on the feed and everything. But, I know there's a couple guys out there. There's Mo. He's a doctor. He's helped me with some just inside information. I had some questions about Sorrental Therapeutics, and he gave me some information. So those are just some people. I didn't miss anybody, but I try to engage in as many people. And also I try to do things that might help somebody. If it's posting something that I've learned or helpful information, I try to, it's all speculative, but I try to, I'm not like a professional, but I try to at least teach. One of my big things was, don't worry about the guy in first place, worry about the guy in front of you. So percentage wise, if you look in front, if you're 20% behind, it's discouraging. And that's how I used to look at it. But if you look at the next person, he might only be up 0.5%. So get past that next person, and then eventually you'll work your way to the top.
For sure. That's a great way of looking at it. Thanks for coming on the podcast today, Dominick. You are an awesome person to talk to.
Well, you too. And and shout out to yourself, because you're going to school and you're doing this, and what you do is very important as well. So give you a shout out as well.
Making money, making moves, machines with tools and drills, making grooves, missions impossible.
I am not a financial advisor, and my comment should never be taken as financial advice. Investments come with risk, so always do your research and analysis beforehand.